Stories are the most powerful thing on earth. They are literally life and death. Wars are waged based on the story of who is the hero and who is the villain. You are the result of a story your parents told each other, the one-night stand, the soulmate, and friends who became so much more. Life and death. So wouldn't you like to understand them better, these stories? How Story Works, an elegant guide to the craft of storytelling by Lonnie Diane Rich, demystifies stories and helps you understand why you love what you love, why you hate what you hate, and why prologues are almost always a bad idea. How Story Works by Lonnie Diane Rich. Available on Amazon in ebook, audiobook, and paperback form. Get your copy today.
Welcome to Still Pretty, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast from Chipperish Media. I'm film scholar and a Viking in the sack, Noelle LaCroix.
And I'm story expert and retired librarian Lonnie Diane Rich, and we are here today to talk about the Yoko Factor and Primeval, the 20th and 21st episodes of Season 4.
The Yoko Factor aired on May 9th, 2000, and was written by Doug Petrie and directed by David Grossman. Primeval aired on May 16th, 2000, and was written by David Fury and directed by James A. Cotner. BT dubs, guys. In the last episode, we said we were just doing the Yoko Factor this week, but we decided to do both of them together because they really are one story. Also, it's our podcast. It's our prerogative to change our minds at any time for no reason.
Well, let me just also put it out there that, I'm the one who set all this stuff up, right? And then Noelle, messages me and she's like, these are really one story. And I'm like, no, it's two stories with a stupid-ass cliffhanger. No, you're right. It's one story.
Well, and we can talk about that after we, we'll do our little intro wrap, and then we can get into what the hell is going on with this story, you guys?
No, we totes will. But anyway, for those of you who are not prepared for us to speak about both episodes, hopefully that's okay because you've already watched all of Buffy. Because if you haven't watched all of Buffy, then listening to Still Pretty is going to be a spoilerific experience anyway. And you're obviously someone who doesn't care about that stuff, so welcome. Anyway, don't worry about it. We are a fully spoiled Buffy podcast, so if you are sensitive to spoilers, now's the time to put us on pause and watch the rest of Buffy. If you've watched all of Buffy, then you're fine talking about both episodes, so we're all good. For someone who's got Watcher on his resume, you might want to cast an eye to the front door every now and again. All right, let's go on patrol. In the Yoko Factor, we open with Commanding Officer Douchebag McGee talking to a shadowy figure on a television screen, telling him that they'll keep an eye on Riley and bring him back into the fold. Meanwhile, Spike and Adam are figuring out how to get the best of Buffy in the big fight, and the two of them put their heads together and come up with a plan.
You want her evening the odds in a fight? You don't want a Slayerette mucking about.
Take them away from her.
Well, there's a plan.
Xander brings Riley some of his clothes to fill out Riley's limited wardrobe, and Xander lets the nature of Angel's curse slip. Riley sinks into a very unattractive petulance about it, especially because Buffy just went to Los Angeles to check in on things after Faith surfaced there and caused a ruckus. Meanwhile, Spike shows up at Giles's looking to get information for Buffy, and he plants some seeds of insecurity in everyone's favorite Watcher.
Besides, she barely listened to you when you were in charge. I've seen the way she treats you.
Oh, yes? How's that?
Very much like a retired librarian.
Willow and Tara are planning for next year's classes and living arrangements, and while Tara presumed that Willow and Buffy would be roomies again, Willow's not sure. At the dorm, Riley shows up to find out what happened with Angel, but Buffy avoids the topic. At Spike's crypt, Xander and Anya deliver a military outfit for Spike's little excursion, and Spike works his triangulating magic on Xander, telling Xander that he overheard Willow and Buffy saying Xander should join the military, where he could be useful.
Can you believe this? Like I'm some sort of useless lunk. It happens that I'm good at a lot of things. I help out with all kinds of stuff. I have skills and stratagems. I'm very... Help me out.
He's a Viking in the sack.
Forrest and Buffy meet up at the cave entrance to the initiative, both of them intent on going in. They bicker until Adam shows up, at which point he skewers Forrest and then shoots Buffy with Walsh's lightning gun. Buffy runs away, but trips and falls, getting knocked out on a rock, and Adam doesn't walk the 5 yards to kill her because busy monster stuff. That night, Spike shows up at Giles's and delivers discs to Willow. While Willow works, Spike slides in some comments designed to make Willow insecure.
Your mate said you weren't playing with computers so much. Into the new thing.
What new thing?
You know, you two. The whole Wicca thing.
They were talking about that?
At the initiative, the containment cells are full and one of the initiative teams is under attack. Riley hears about it on the walkie-talkie he rigged to keep track of the initiative's activities, and when he goes to rescue the team, he finds a big, broody angel with his deep, dark eyes and disapproving simian ridge. And as the two of them circle each other like, well, men, we get this.
Don't push me, boy.
Riley and Angel fight, and then Angel throws Riley onto a pile of construction materials, and Batman's away. Riley follows him to Buffy's and takes a stand, refusing to leave as long as Angel is there. So Buffy and Angel go out to the hall and make peace. But before leaving, Angel tells Buffy one last thing about Riley.
I don't like him.
Spike shows up at Adam's lair, celebrating his success at how easy it was to separate the Scoobies, calling his strategy the Yoko Factor. At Buffy's dorm, Buffy and Riley talk, and she tells him that she's got good news and bad news. The good news, she didn't sleep with Angel. The bad news, Forrest is dead. Riley leaves, devastated. Buffy goes over to Giles' house where everyone is angry and Giles is drunk and things escalate from there. Finally, Buffy's had enough.
I guess I'm starting to understand why there's no ancient prophecy about a chosen one and her friends.
In Primeval, Riley reports to Adam his autonomy neatly sidestepped by a chip placed in his chest tied to his nervous system, courtesy of Mommy Maggie Walsh. Adam is very excited about having a new bro to hang with, and Riley is clearly disturbed by this turn of events, but can't really do anything about it because he's under Adam's complete control. Spike shows up, proud of himself and demanding his chipperectomy, but when Adam spots a flaw in his plan, Spike goes back out to make sure Willow gets the information on the discs to Buffy. Adam brings Riley to a secret lab where a zombie Maggie Walsh works away. Proudly, Adam watches as his brand new Franken-Forrest wakes up.
God.
God has nothing to do with it.
Meanwhile, Giles is hungover, Willow and Tara are awkward, and Xander is depressed, staying in bed all day. Buffy goes to Adam's lair by herself and finds it deserted, but bumps into Spike, who plays his hand a little too hard and tips Buffy off to his play. She calls a meeting on campus and tells the others that they fought because Spike filled their heads to break them up, and now everything's, well, not fine exactly, but they can pretend it's okay long enough to figure out Adam's plan. Pit the demons in the initiative against the humans, get a body count, and then start sewing parts together to build his Franken army to take over the world, I guess? Meanwhile, Buffy, Xander, Willow, and Giles try to figure out how they can extract Adam's power source. To everyone's surprise, Xander hits on the answer.
So, no problem. All we need is combo Buffy. Her with Slayer strength, Giles' multilingual know-how, and Willow's witchy power.
They break into the initiative through Lowell House, and as they scale down the elevator shaft, Buffy and Willow make up, then pull in Xander and Giles for a group hug. Rebonded, they bust into the initiative and are promptly caught. From Adam's Central Command, he and Spike watch on the monitors that Buffy is there with her friends. Adam orders Franken-Forrest to take off Spike's head, but Spike has way too much delight armor. I'll explain that later. And he gets away. In the compound, Buffy tries to explain to Commanding Officer Douchebag McGee what's going on.
This is not your business. It's mine. You, the Initiative, the boys at the Pentagon, you're all in way over your heads. Messing with primeval forces you have absolutely no comprehension of.
And you do.
I'm the Slayer. You're playing on my turf.
Adam lets the demons loose, and in the confusion, Buffy and the Scooby Gang get away and get to work. Giles, Xander, and Willow set up the spell while Buffy goes to look for Adam. She finds the secret lab and finds Riley there, but he can't talk to her. Adam commands Franken-Forrest to kill Buffy while zombie Maggie comes at her with a bone saw. Buffy fights, and a glass breaks near Riley. He reaches for the shards, cuts the chip out of his central nervous system without, killing himself, and joins in the fight, taking on Franken-Forrest so that Buffy can go after Adam. She starts to fight him and is losing, But then the spell takes over, and Willow, Xander, and Giles are all part of her, and her eyes glow red, and she starts talking in the royal we.
You can't last much longer.
We can. We are forever.
Interesting.
Riley beats Franken-Forrest up with a flammable canister, then dives for cover as it explodes. In Adam's control center, the royal Buffy can stop bullets, turn missiles into doves, and reach into Adam's guts to pull out his uranium core and dissolve it in light. But once she does this, she falls into Riley's arms, exhausted. Xander, Giles, and Willow regain individual consciousness, and a demon attacks. Spike kills it, pretending to be on their side. But even though they know what he's done, they don't kill him because delight armor. Buffy takes out the initiative, and in voiceover, the shady government agency explains that the whole program is going to be shut down and we shall never speak of it again. Good call. All right, Noelle, so here we are with essentially the finale of season 4. I mean, I know we got Restless. We'll talk about that next week.
Right.
But as far as the action, we'll get to that next week. But as far as like the antagonism, the main big bad of this season, we're actually dispatching with him, with Adam, and with Maggie Walsh, and with the Initiative by episode 21. So we've got these 2 episodes here. And briefly, let's go into why you're right, and this is one story. The reason why, I originally looked at it and I thought, okay, so we have this thing where it's about Spike dividing them up, and then we have this, bullshit cliffhanger at the end where we're like, oh no, Riley's under Adam's control. To be continued.
Right.
And just because something says to be continued does not mean that it's necessarily part of the same story. But then you brought that up and I was like, okay. And I thought about it for about 3 seconds and I was like, okay, well, the story isn't really about breaking them up. It's about breaking them up and then them coming back together. Like that is the whole story arc for these 2 episodes. So I think you were right. That is one story. So covering them together, I think, is a good thing. Plus the fact that you can always kind of tell in a 2-parter when most of the story is weighted toward one episode or the other, and then the other just has a lot of filler in it, like, I don't know, Angel coming to town, that kind of shit, right? Which has absolutely no place in this current narrative. Is not what we're doing, but we sure will spend a lot of time on it, and I'm actually happy about that because that's probably one of my favorite parts of both of these episodes. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But anyway, one of the things that I found interesting about what I find interesting about Buffy, what I find interesting about these stories in general, is that it is always about power. Right? We have this thing from Adam. You have no power, not yet. Once you forget your old life and embrace your destiny as I have, you'll know power you've never dreamed of. And I think you're going to like it, right? So we have this human fascination with power, and these stories about good and evil, when you really dig down, are almost always about the pursuit of power and what we will do to each other in order to obtain it. And when I started thinking about that, I was like, oh, Jesus, if you really drill it down, all good and evil is about power. Right? And we get to that in Buffy in season 5. We get Checkpoint when Buffy gives her power speech to the Watchers Council and then takes over. She has the power there. We start out Buffy season 7 calling it out directly with Buffy saying it's about power. So we start right there. Here we have Riley, who has no power to control even himself, up against Adam, who is all powerful at this point, right? And the only way to stop Adam is to pull out the source of his power, which, as I recall, was exactly how we phrased the amulet that Anya had in the Wish, right? Destroy the source of her power. So I find all of this really kind of interesting, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the theme of power in these episodes and in this season particularly.
Well, okay, this season, season 4 is such an interesting season to me because it really feels all over the place. Like,
yes,
it feels like, I mean, there's just so much going on, and we get so much good in season 4 and so many things that I absolutely love. And then so many things that I'm like, why is this even here? Adam, until these episodes. And then I'm kind of like, yeah, all right. Like, I'm sort of, on board with the whole Adam, especially the Adam Spike stuff.
Yeah.
Could have been, it feels like it could have been really good especially in this, this power narrative, because of course Spike and Adam are interested in power over, whereas Buffy is interested in power with, which of course is what ultimately, saves the day. I mean, the power of friendship and being yourself, like every heroic narrative that I tend to love so much is really about, tapping into your own unique power. And then the community of friends that
your own personal autonomy. Yeah. Like there's power over yourself, and then there's power over others. And then, of course, with great power comes great responsibility, which is a whole other thing. That power used to serve others is a good power. Right. And power used to harm and all of that is a bad power. But when you look at most villains, when you get a good villain, like a villain that actually makes some sense, like a bad, who's like, well, I want all this power so that I can make the world a better place because the world is fucked, right?
I'm just trying to protect you. Like, those villains, those are the best ones.
Exactly. I mean, they're flawed, right? But they're still trying to make the world the way that they think it should be.
But it's still power over instead of power with.
It's still power over, and that's the difference, right? Yeah. No, it's interesting. Like once you start thinking about that nature of good and evil and what makes good and evil, and then the fact that honestly the perspective from which the story is being told defines the good and evil of that particular narrative.
Always. Yeah.
Gets real interesting.
And I love that you just said the nature of good and evil, because of course in this pair of episodes we really get Adam's cave, which is part of nature, which we enter through the forest, which is sort of part of nature.
Yeah.
But then is also part of the initiative, which is like the most technology place I think that we've seen on the show so far. And there's this push-pull of like different, I don't know. There's a more interesting story, I think, underneath this story that we didn't quite get to, because I feel like they only really hit their stride with the Adam stuff in these last couple of episodes, and then it's over, right? They hit their...
Yeah, well, because they had him on a bench. He was just there being all weird.
And it's so weird.
For the rest of the season.
Okay, it's such a weird choice. I mean, and maybe you can speak more to this in terms of antagonists and what makes a good antagonist, but he's like literally on the table for the first half of the season, and then he's like born yesterday but still somehow like this all-seeing, all-knowing kind of God.
He
this
sees
like
through Jonathan.
it's interesting because he's this godlike character, or he I don't know, he behaves as such, but then of course Forrest tells us God has nothing to do with it. But then Buffy and her friends like literally become almost, I'm tempted to say like capital G goddess or godex. Like it's super like mind versus spirit or I don't know.
Well, and what is God? I mean, is God about power?
God is about, I mean, do you want my opinion, or do you want like...
Well, no, but I mean, like, we're going to get into this next season when we talk about Glory being a god, and what is a god, and how do you define that? I mean,
oh my God.
Oh my God. I love Glory too. Lots of people don't like Glory.
What?
I'm going to annoy them next
what?
season.
Oh my God, I'm going to bug them so much.
And you know
just
what?
Skip season 5.
You know what? Yeah,
she's my fave.
I love Glory. Honestly, Glory is one of my favorites. But I'm going to be interested in thinking about those perspectives that get annoyed with her. Because I think that the kinds of things that you like and the kinds of things that you don't, the things that you respond to and the things that you don't, can be really, really interesting to kind of like go at from almost a Rorschach test kind of perspective. Like, what is it about Glory that speaks so well to me? And why do I hate Muppets? These are all things I'll be working at with my therapist. But anyway, that's getting a little ahead. But, we actually define Glory in season 5 as a god. But we do have these God-esque kind of power dynamics, right? If God is all powerful, right?
Can he make a rock
what
so
defines
big
a god.
he himself can't lift it?
He himself can't lift it, right? I kind of love the person who thought that up, because that person was just like, I'd like to fuck with you a little bit. So let me just throw this out there.
That's all those, that's all the rebel kids in Catholic school who are like, wait a second,
yeah.
where did Mrs. Kane come from? You know, like they're like, hold
Right.
on. I love it.
Hang on a second. Those are
it. Yeah, quite.
they are interesting. Interesting questions.
Be critical of the stories with which you engage. Is what I'm saying.
Exactly. Thinking critically as exactly huge part of that. But like when we're looking at what Adam is and like what is it that defines being godlike, like here we have Buffy as the royal Buffy, right? With all of them as part of her. Her eyes are glowing red. She has this incredible power. She can stop bullets in midair, which leads me to the question, like, why don't they do this every time they have to fight somebody? But that's a question for
isn't that a question
day.
For Restless? Like, aren't they just like?
I guess so, because there's
that
consequences.
They're just toast after. Like, why do we even?
Right, but if you only have to do it once a year, I mean, the big fight only happens in May, right?
It's like Hogwarts.
It's like Christmas. You spend the rest of the year getting ready. Exactly.
It tracks neatly along the course of the school year. It's so helpful.
It does. And the television season, absolutely, it does. So I don't know. Like I find it kind of interesting. Like, it depends upon what your definition of, first of all, God as the God that people believe in through some kind of religious, thought or a theological thought, or the God, like the goddess, the God X, right? That is all of these people together. That is all of that power, and that what is it that defines somebody being a god or not. And I think I've gotten off track, and I think maybe if you're looking for theology in Buffy, you should go to the Prophecy guys.
I wasn't,
but it's just kind of an interesting question.
Thinking so much. I guess I wasn't thinking so much about theology as this the way the show seems to have set up these two power dynamics,
right?
And how it, I don't know what's going on with Adam, Lottie, but like ultimately that's what it is for me. Like he is this creation who starts out apparently trying to figure out like what the nature of himself is, which I totally understand, and like that would be a really compelling story, but somehow it isn't. And
right.
And then somehow like it's like a switch flips, maybe even literally, and he's this like I don't know, shadow god creator sort of, I'm going to build the world in my own image because why?
And we have this whole Frankenstein thing, right? Which, okay, once again, I have not read Frankenstein. I know about it from cultural context. And if you want to learn about actual Frankenstein, then you want to go to Dr. Paul Moffat at clockworksacademy.com. He teaches these classes. He's amazing. All right. So I clearly need to take this class. But my understanding about Frankenstein, right? Or like what to me is compelling about the idea of Frankenstein that I have culturally absorbed, right? Is this loneliness, the essential loneliness that comes from, it doesn't matter how much power he has, he is essentially alone. And so Adam, I think in this season, we see him having, like this ultimate like physical power. Like he has the power to tear people apart, and he has the power to kill and all of this, but he doesn't have what Buffy which I think would have been a really interesting thing to kind of compare the power of community that Buffy has, right? That Buffy, because Spike is, I've killed 2 Slayers, but I can't even get so much as a scratch on Buffy because she's got friends, like, and it is very much this whole like, My Little Pony friendship is magic kind of idea.
But it really is, you guys. Like, sorry, these are the stories I love.
Yes.
We all have different skills and abilities and powers, and when we bring them together for the collective, that's when things are awesome.
Right.
So I am here for the day being saved by the power of friendship and being yourself.
Yes.
But it's not, you're right about the unbalanced force with Adam and, Adam versus Buffy and the Slayerettes. It's not.
Well, Adam, the one thing that he's missing is community, right? So here we have his goal. Like we have no clarity on exactly like he's got all these demons, he's got all these humans, he's gonna take all these body parts, he's gonna sew them all together and make a bunch of Franken-Forrests, right? To what end? Like, what is the purpose? And here we have, like, Buffy's whole thing is that they have all been separated from each other, but once they unite, they are more powerful than anything. And here we have this guy who has every kind of power except that, right? Except true friendship, except community, except a place where he belongs, right? I mean, one of the main like human needs is the need to belong, to be part of a community, right? And so here we have Adam with his human parts, right? That wants to understand himself, that wants community.
So sad.
Right. Like, and if that was the story that we were telling effectively, because we represent the other side of that so wonderfully on Buffy's side, right? With that whole representation of here she is in her community, we break down her community while Adam is trying to build up his community. And if he wants to steal her community, you know, if it's about, I want a Willow, you know, so I'm going to make a Willow. I want a Xander, so I'm going to make a Xander, right? If he had been doing that all along, right? I mean, and if that was what he was trying to do, was to find his community, find where he belongs, and then this final stage of that is I'm going to build from the body parts so that there are people like me, so that people don't look at me with disgust, right? Because that's friend, right? I mean, I don't know. I've seen that clip of the movie for Frankenstein. I don't know if it's in the book. I don't know if that's a theme. Dr. Paul Moffat, correct me. Let me know. But I mean, that's what I've kind of seen, know, in those stories. And that's what I find compelling about that idea is that here we have this monster who has all this power and it's not enough because he doesn't have community. Right. And so he wants what Buffy has, and he wants to take that from her so that he can have this thing, and that she's trying to stop him from getting his community. And then you would have, first of all, he would be humanized in a way that I think would be really, really interesting for a villain who is, you know, wanting to do really bad things, but for reasons that we can understand. Also, there's a reflection in where the source of Buffy's power against the source of his power. Right. And he's trying to get that source, but he can't find anybody who will accept him. And if we have a series of people that he's trying to, like, you know, go out and have community with or whatever. I mean, if he didn't wake up and instantly kill his mom, it might work better. I understand that Maggie Walsh, you know, was not interested in finishing off the season, or the actress or whatever. Bottom line is there's a way to do that, right? Without it necessarily being that the other, you know, scientist guy was a bad guy and killed Maggie to wake up Adam, and then that's how everything went wrong. You know, something. Who the hell knows, right? You find a way.
Who the hell knows? No one knows.
A way, you know. But I think that because this season has been kind of all over the place and like figuring out what's going on, we have all of these identity stories going on. We have Xander's identity stories, Giles' identity stories, you know, Willow's identity stories, so many of these identity stories going on. I mean, even Oz is an identity story, right? You know, where does the werewolf end and the human begin? There's so many different things that you can bring into that to make this final battle so much more personalized, you know? And when you can sympathize, you know, with your bad guy, your villain, your antagonist. Villains and antagonists are not always the same thing. I'll explain that in another. But like, just because somebody's an antagonist that has a goal that's opposing the protagonist does not necessarily make them a villain. Now, in this case, Adam is absolutely a villain because he wants to like kill people and everything. But it's really, really interesting to see like where this season could have gone, where it could have like hooked into something much more deeply emotional and much more human and much more sad. If all Adam wants is to reclaim the parts of him that are human, and it's made impossible by the parts of him that are demon, which is something that he did not choose. That was, you know, that was something that was imposed upon him. That is a really interesting, I think, question to ask, you know, and having a sympathetic big bad would have been really fun. As it is, everything in this season it's so close and falls just short of being able to kind of like land in that nice space. And that's why it's always a disappointment for me.
Why these episodes in particular, or why the big bad?
Why the season, the big arc of the season is always a disappointment for me.
Well, because there's not really an arc of the season. Not really. There are a lot of these little stories about identity and community. I mean, we literally have an episode in this season called Who Are You?
Exactly. Right.
Like, we literally have these stories about, like, we get Something Blue in this season. We get a story about, like, a ridiculous comedic romp about relationships and how bonkers they are. In this season that also has Hush, that also has, the excruciating emotional, I don't even know, turmoil of Willow and Oz and Tara. Like, we have all of these little bits and pieces of stories about identity and community and relationship. And I don't just mean like romantic or sexual or like partner type relationship, but friend relationships. I mean, we get that beautiful reconciliation in Primeval with Buffy and Willow and Xander. And it's a little bit cheesy with Xander being like, Giles, you gotta get down here for this. But it is also like really sweet. Like, they have this great moment where they group hug and it's like, yeah, these are my people. Like, it's almost but not quite a story about chosen family versus, I don't want to say biological family, because obviously the initiative is not that, but it's almost like a forced family dynamic.
It is very forced. This mother, this brother thing, right?
Brother, yeah. Even Forrest talking to Buffy, saying, the family's, what is it? Like, the family's been divided or something like that. And it's not, I mean, I talked about this a little bit, I think in Goodbye Iowa, about, are they really? They're not really a family. Like, it's a weird way to position the initiative, but also probably really serves this kind of sort of arc about who your family is and who your people are. I don't even know. There are so many missed opportunities in season 4 is what I'm saying. But also, it yanks me around in this way that I kind of like. I sort of love that season 4 is like all over the place. I'm like, yeah, give me some Faith Buffy swapping bodies. Give me some, Faith
and Buffy swapping bodies is so perfect for this whole season about identity. Like, I mean, it's wild, but I love it. I'm here for it. Like, I'm here for Something Blue. I'm here for like all of this stuff that they've got going on this season. I think it's so great. Where it all falls down and fails is in the antagonist. But I guess the thing that makes me so crazy about that is that you, like, they put it all there. They built everything up. They did everything. And then they just were like, nah, we're not going to see it through to the very clear space that it should have gone. We're just going to have this guy, wander around looking creepy and saying weird shit to people. Like, the fact that Adam... Which is a mood, really. Which is a mood. Oh, it is. It's a thing. But I mean, the fact that Adam is the one that sees through Jonathan's spell is really interesting, for Adam to be the one who sees, I find that really interesting. And that he can, if he had insight, I mean, how much more interesting would it have been if his death had been kind of sad, I would have loved that. Yeah. I love that. Like, make me both sad and relieved when the big bad is gone. Give me those complicated feelings. Yes.
I like the complicated feelings.
I like it too. And I think it would have said something more. Like, it would have given, while there's all this really interesting crunchy identity stuff happening in the Buffy side of the story, with all of these characters, and which is happening so consistently, that I cannot believe that was in any way an accident. Like, the idea of you have this perfect opportunity with this one guy who's made up of all these parts trying to figure out his identity, and you don't do anything with it. Like, why would you not do anything? Why? You have you went shopping, you bought all the ingredients, but you're not baking the cake. Like, why would you do that? Like, so I guess that's what like throws me off about it, is that it's not even like, oh, wouldn't it have been neat if they had done this? It's like, oh, they did 95% of this and then just decided not to make it good. You know, that I don't understand. I have no idea what happened during the season. Right.
Yeah.
Or like to fulfill all that potential. They have all of the potential right there. And had you rewritten a handful of scenes across the season, you would have had such a crunchy, like psychologically and emotionally like impactful story that at the end would have really said something, you know, about not just like all the stuff that Buffy's going, but like in general, like this need for companionship, this need for community, this human need to be seen and to be understood and to know who you are. All of that stuff is really interesting. There's some great stuff to talk about there. And yet, instead, we set the table and choose not to make the dinner. I don't understand it, you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, and my only explanation is that it's what you get when you have a ton of writers, because of course writers are all going to bring their own, you know, they're all going to bring their own perspective and their own, do I want to say values? Maybe I do.
Yeah.
But like, I know that I have definitely written things where, you know, the assignment was this, but I really want to write about this.
Right.
So that's what we're going to write. I mean, fuck, I do that on this podcast. I'm like, I know we're supposed to be talking about like this weird sex wall or whatever, but I'm going to talk about Maurice Sendak.
Right. But you made it infinitely more interesting. Let me just say that, you know.
Well, but I mean, and that's why, and I think that that's part of why season 4, and especially these two, this pair of episodes, I'm like, was it backwards pants day in the writer's room? Like, what was happening?
It's the role of the showrunner. That's what the showrunner's supposed to do. They're supposed to see everything and be like, all right, this is what we're doing, you know, and then like give that guidance. But it is. I cannot believe that the whole identity side of things that's being told on Buffy's side, that absolutely has to be, that can't be a coincidence that we tell all of these really, really smart, interesting, crunchy identity stories, and yet don't do anything smart or interesting or crunchy with Adam as identity, especially because he's made up of a bunch of random parts. If anybody's going to be questioning their identity, it's this dude, right? Right. So like all of that stuff I really, really love, but it just misses the ball. And I think that's part of why season 4 becomes so disappointing. Season 4 is often considered to be like, you know, one of the worst seasons of Buffy. Honestly, it's my least favorite season of Buffy. Although there's stuff that I love within. You know, like there's some of my favorite episodes in the whole run are in season 4. I mean, Something Blue is definitely a top 5er for me. I love that episode, right? But season 4 is a really difficult season, I think, because it sets everything up and has all of that potential, and then it just feels like it's unfinished. You know, it feels like it needs a couple of more drafts, you know, to like figure out exactly where they're going. But it could have been so good. The potential was there. And so I find it to be really disappointing in the end.
Yeah. And I'm mostly just confused. I'm mostly just like, you know, like not in a bad way necessarily, but like I found it like, okay, I found it really telling. I forget things about the show all the time, right? I mean, obviously, but I'm watching Primeval and I'm like, oh my God, how did I forget zombie Maggie Walsh? Especially when like, what was it, like literally last week? I'm like, nobody ever comes back from the dead. What? No. It's like, what are you like zombie Walsh, zombie Dr. Creepy, zombie Forrest, although he's a different whatever.
Yeah.
There's all of this bizarre and yet completely delightful to me stuff going on that for whatever reason I just did not remember about these episodes. I completely forgot about the truly like top-notch A+ top shelf Spike that we get in both of these episodes. Like where was this Spike and Adam thing all along? Like, I so would have loved them being like the, like the smart, scary bad guy and the kind of, bumbling, funny bad guy as the pair for the season.
Well,
that
Pinky
would have
and the
been
Brain,
so great.
man,
Oh my God.
the whole time I was like,
they
what are we going to do
Pinky
today?
and the Brain.
No, they really
They
are.
are Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah.
No, that's a great pull. Like, that's exactly what they are.
And the thing is that Spike usually is the smart guy, but next to Adam, they have him playing stupid. And they have him playing stupid because they need to make Adam look smart, not because Adam is actually smart. Like, Adam has information. How smart he actually is, I think, is up for debate. But I do love this whole Yoko Factor thing that Spike does, which I think is just fantastic. And it also shines a nice light on the inherent racism and misogyny and the whole everyone blames Yoko Ono thing, which has been going on for decades, right? With everybody blaming Yoko Ono for breaking up the Beatles. And also, if you're ever trying to like convince somebody who won't see it that our culture is inherently racist and misogynist, just tell them about Yoko. Just talk about that. That'll do it for you. Or you know, for something more modern, Meghan Markle.
Right.
Yeah.
But or just listen to the episode of the podcast you're wrong about, entitled "Yoko Ono Broke Up the Beatles." First of all, I mean, they are in no way affiliated with this podcast, but the folks that you're wrong about are absolutely delightful. It's the best podcast. It's way better than this one. Definitely go listen to it.
Don't say that when I'm in the room with you. Wait until I leave, at least.
I love you.
Oh.
No, but I mean, but if you've enjoyed my homosexual empathy noises recently, or if you haven't, you have Michael Hobbs to thank / blame for that. I mean, seriously, like, just listen to the episode, the You're Wrong About episode on Yoko Ono and the Beatles. And partially that's my bias shining through because I love Yoko. Yoko Ono is magic. And Spike kind of sort of standing up for her really made me go, well, that's it. I mean, that's my girl power moment of the week. Is Spike aligning himself with this maligned figure and then being like, and it wasn't really her fault. She was just there.
No, I love that. I love that he is looking at this and he is not, because the knee-jerk, standard cultural thing to do is be like, oh, yeah, it was Yoko's fault, which is so infuriating. And it's one of the things that makes me love Spike even more. I already loved Spike, but I love the fact that he's like, yeah, that was all bullshit, but I will use that cultural momentum to my, benefit as I go around and, have all these people blaming each other for everything. I thought it was really, really great. I love when Spike plays the hell out of everyone and he's like, that was fun. I love this theme that we have of evil sees. Spike can see all of their insecurity. Adam can see things. Spike picks up on Willow and Tara immediately, as did Faith, who was at that moment, let's not forget, evil. Right? So what I find really interesting about that is, are we saying something about the things that goodness will blind us to, that make us unable to see? I find that an interesting question. I don't know.
I wonder, is it goodness that makes it like that sort of puts that scrim over what we're able to see and understand? Or is it something else? Like, why? Like, I love how perceptive Spike is. Even when he's bumbling, even when he's kind of like in way over his head, he still is really good about seeing and acknowledging the truth of the situation, at least, through his own
I think it's
lens.
I think it's that there's a sense of, I think, and I don't know because it's off the top of my head, but that with goodness comes a sense of politeness, and politeness is by its very nature dishonest. And so in the pursuit of politeness, we will often be dishonest and dishonest with ourselves as well. I wonder if that's it, because Spike's honesty, Anya's honesty, comes from the fact that they are not polite. But Anya is good. Like she's, she
Right.
bats up for good now, right?
Right.
And Spike is evil. So I think that maybe there's something to be said about the inherently dishonest nature of politeness, and politeness as being a generally accepted positive quality to those who tend to align with good.
Except that I don't think I would describe any of our heroic characters on the show as polite necessarily. Like, I don't know. There's definitely more of a discussion to be had here. And I'm like rolling around synonyms in my brain right now. Because what Anya is blunt.
Yes.
In all ways. Like she doesn't pull any punches with her words.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that's a different discussion for a different podcast.
I think so.
Like the nuances of like bluntness and honesty and rudeness and politeness and goodness, whatever that means.
Right, exactly.
Like, what does that even mean? Like, what are we even saying?
Don't look too close at goodness,
weird...
man, because it will fall apart right in front of you. Yeah, it's real hard. But I think you're right. I think that that we have stepped into a space that is absolutely outside of my expertise zone. But
it is an interesting thing that comes up over and over again on this show, and certainly I think throughout. I want to say throughout like U.S. media, the idea of the character who is, air quotes, evil,
right,
also being the character who sees the truth about people and situations.
And is honest a lot of the time.
And maybe I wonder if that is a boon to manipulation, that if you can see, because not only does Spike pick up on the Willow Tara relationship immediately, he also then knows that that's going to be a place that he can,
right.
That's going to be a sore spot he can poke.
It's an opportunity. Yeah. It's interesting because evil uses all of the information and so doesn't blind itself to stuff. So what is it that goodness blinds us to or makes us not see, even to the point where, oh, well, that's none of my business. Like I'm not going to be watching Willow and Tara looking for, something because it's none of my business or whatever it is, But also the role of the truth teller, was Cordelia, right? And then we got Anya, right? And then we're going to bring in Spike to be the truth teller after a while.
What is it that Cordelia says about tact?
Oh, tact is just not saying true stuff. I'll pass.
Yeah. So
it's a really, really interesting question, which I am not even remotely prepared to answer, but now I've posed it and I've thrown it out to you guys in the audience. So you bat that around like a beach ball for a while. Let us know what comes up. But I would like to talk about how Buffy and Riley need to break up now.
Oh my God. Speaking of not speaking the truth.
Oh
Jesus.
My God. I think my favorite moment in this is when Buffy looks at Riley with these deep blue eyes. Have I ever done anything to make you think that you can't trust me? I'm like, yeah, you never tell him anything. You never want to talk about anything. You keep a million secrets. You started out lying to each other. And then even when you told him the truth about Angel, you did not tell him the whole truth. So yeah, I think you left out an important detail. And then, we have Riley's petulance that Buffy was not pure enough, that she had been with a vampire, before he graced her with his magic penis. And that's incredibly punchable, because he's upset, not because he thinks that she has slept with Angel in Los Angeles, because he doesn't think that until he bumps into Angel and sees Angel beating people up, right? He just, knows that she has slept with a vampire, prior to ever knowing him or whatever. And it's just It's just irritating. And it's irritating the way that Buffy never wants to talk about anything with him. Never. I mean, probably with good reason, because he's kind of an idiot. But I just like, they need to break up.
Oh my God. So sometimes I pop a This Week in Men section in my notes. Every now and then I have to do it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And This Week in Men, oh my God, it's just the eggplant emoji followed by the facepalm emoji. What? I mean, I know it's a podcast, so I have to like words about what I'm feeling here, but I mean, just like hard agree with you, Lonnie, on the total lack of trustworthiness in the Buffy Riley relationship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was watching this whole interaction like, yeah, you constantly
give him a reason not to trust you.
Constantly give him reasons not to trust you.
Right.
Like, and this shit, and here's the thing that really, really bothers me about this is the kind of thing that we're told is romantic. Like, I'm flashing back to Hush and Buffy and Riley literally lying to each other.
Right.
As they explain away patrolling / initiativing.
Right.
You know, later that evening.
Right.
And I understand. Yes, I know. Mm-hmm. Secret identity, blah, 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 covert government operation, yada, yada, yada. I mean, but
that is literally how the relationship started. Like, regardless of whether they were doing it, that's how they started. Like, they started not trusting each other.
I mean, and it's so gaslighty to be like, I'm perfectly trustworthy. Yep. Like, it's such nonsense. I do not, like, no, I bounce hard off of Buffy herself.
Yeah.
On occasion, and this is one of those occasions.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she never wants to talk to him.
Yeah.
She has opportunities to tell him things.
Every time.
Doesn't tell him. And
every time they're going to talk, she says, no, let's not. At the end of Superstar, when they were healing from this whole, faith debacle, right? Then she just says, no, let's not talk. We don't have to talk. As though that is romantic, and it is not.
Well, and that I feel like is such a myth of the romantic relationship that, like, if it's really love and you really care about each other and it's really for real this time, that your partner is somehow a mind reader.
Yeah.
And you don't have to communicate.
Exactly.
And, you can just like fall into each other's arms and that's, and it's magic and the whole world, goes away or whatever.
Very dangerous idea.
Communication is
communication is sexy. Yeah.
It's fucking mandatory. Like, if you want to have a healthy relationship.
For any relationship, but especially a relationship that is that deeply intimate. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's tough in this particular, Buffy, Riley, like, are not a great relationship topic. Because, I mean, I do have compassion for Riley here regarding Buffy having sex with Angel and that being Angel's trigger. And I mean, don't worry, Lonnie, it's just a light compassion glaze. It's not, he's not off the hook.
It's all right.
Trust me.
Yes.
I don't really read Riley's response as being about Buffy's purity necessarily. Like, Riley knows Buffy has had sex with other people.
Yes, but with vampires.
It's a punchable offense.
With people that he approves of. Right, exactly. But they're people that he understands and approves of in the sense that they're human. Right? She's had sex with a vampire.
Oh, God.
And that's his problem. He's judging that choice.
Ew, like, that somehow makes it even more cringy.
Right.
That it's like, it's not that he thought she hadn't had sex with anyone. Yeah. And now it's, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, like I say, he's not off the hook.
Yeah.
But I do see this as some, like, Liz Phair type, I saw secret positions that we never tried level jealousy. I mean, sex with Buffy is good for Riley, but it's not lost his soul good. I mean, come on. Not to mention, Buffy left out this vital detail that would explain so much of the intensity of her relationship with Angel, like, to Riley.
Yeah.
Like, if she had included this, I mean, yeah, that probably would have been a painful thing for both of them in this conversation, in their relationship, but it would have given Riley so much more insight into why all of the stuff with Buffy and Angel is so fraught.
Right.
But she chooses not to tell him. Probably because it's not safe to tell him, which is another, lovely red flag for your relationship is maybe not great or not so great.
Exactly.
But and then it ends. They end it on this fucking, "'cause I'm so in love with you."
Oh,
like I can't.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
And she's like, "Yeah, I know, same." And then it's like,
because I'm so in love with you, I can't think straight. So really, it's all your fault. Oh my God, that is not romantic.
But also that like somehow that's okay. Like,
right.
I'm so bent out of shape, or I'm so, out of control or whatever. Like I've completely lost all perspective,
right,
because I'm so in love with you.
Yeah,
no, thank you,
no,
hard pass. And do not get me started on Angel in this episode in Primeval. Like I hate him.
Oh my God, I love him so much in this episode. And here's the thing. I am not sure that I would disagree with any of the reasons why you hate him, but because he comes in, he's a fucking man, he's peeing all over the territory, right? He could have, their phones in Los Angeles, he could have called to apologize. I mean, I like that his instinct is to apologize, because he should be apologizing to Buffy. Now, when I did the episodes over on the Angel podcast, Still Dead, the way that Buffy was written in those episodes made her look really super wrong, right? But she had a point too, So when he comes out to apologize, I like that he wanted to apologize. Phones don't do well on television, and I always tell my, my screenwriting students not to put in phone calls because nobody wants to watch a fucking phone call. So I get it. But the thing is, he comes in, he interrupts everything that's going on, with everything, like not just for us narratively, although we have to spend, 15 minutes on this stupid two men circling each other, staring each other down over a woman bullshit, right?
Oh my God.
So I get that. But I love that he hits Riley at a point where I really would like to hit Riley. I love when he comes in, he says, "Don't push me, boy." I love that, right? I love the thing where he sits with Buffy out in the hallway and she's like, "What are you trying to do?" He goes, "I'm trying to make things better." And they both start laughing. There is a comfort there with the two of them. It's a nice moment for them. And honestly, if I didn't hate Riley so much, I might be more annoyed with Angel. But right now, watching him punch Riley in the face is just so goddamn satisfying. I can't help it. So I have to say that if loving Angel here is wrong, and I'm definitely very open to the argument that it is, I don't want to be right. I just don't care. I love Angel in this whole thing. I love when he turns around, he's like, "Riley, I don't like him." And I'm like, new ringtone for me, because I don't like Riley either.
Oh, there's one bit of Angel that I do enjoy.
Yeah.
Is when he's sitting on the bed in Buffy's dorm and he's like, she says something like, "If I see another display of testosterone poisoning, I will put you both in the hospital." And Angel goes, "He started it."
I love the look when Riley's being all petulant. He's like, "I'm not moving." And then Buffy's like, "Let's go out into the hallway." And he gives Riley this smirk as he goes out. And it's stupid, possessive, masculine bullshit. And I can't help it. I just love Angel in this episode.
This week in toxic masculinity.
Absolutely. All of it. Toxic masculinity. Absolute. Testosterone poisoning. Yes. 100%. Back it up. Still love Angel in this episode. I'm just going to have to acknowledge that sometimes sometimes you love things that you shouldn't love. But I do.
I love Maggie Walsh, okay? I have no moral high ground.
You know what? It's all
fine.
right. All I'm saying is that, like, anybody who thinks I'm wrong with this, I'm completely with you. It's okay. I'm just going to love it anyway. So I do love the insecurity play that Spike does in these episodes. And I love Tara and Anya hanging out in the bathroom while everybody's fighting. Like, nice tile.
It's so great.
It's sweet.
so good.
And I love seeing Tara and Anya spend some time together.
And the fight, the fight itself, the way this all like breaks down at the end of the Yoko Factor, again, is one of those like season 4 beats that feels completely like banana pants, and I just love it.
Oh my God.
Like, it's so great, but it also, I'm like, I'm watching it. I was watching it this time going, this feels very different from the rest of the show.
Yes.
And I don't know that it's necessarily supposed to feel as different as it does, but I love it.
But it's so fun seeing all of them fighting. And then Xander's like, I'll be here with crusty old Alfred. And Giles is like, oh no, you forget Alfred had a job. You know, I love all of that. I love when Giles stumbles up the stairs and he's trying to take off his sweater, which also, by the way, this whole like season of Identity has been Sweater Giles. No job, no function, not sure where his place is. And then as he's stumbling up the stairs drunk, he's trying to take off the sweater and he can't. I kind of love that. So there's a lot of stuff I think that's really, really cute and really, really fun in this whole thing. But yeah, it does feel a little bit off that they would all fall so completely for Spike hitting all of these areas of insecurity. But at the same time, we've been seeding Xander's sense of insecurity, not being part of the group, not being, you know, on campus or in college, feeling separate that way. Giles feeling like he doesn't know where he's supposed to go. Willow, of course, you know, working with her own sense of identity. First of all, when she gets to school and her identity is completely shifted, she was the nerd, you know, in high school. And now she is the woman who's got her shit together. This is her place. Yeah. This is where she belongs, you know.
Big witch on campus.
Big witch on campus. Yeah. And then she goes through this personal sexual identity process with Tara, which is beautiful, you know. So there's all of that stuff, and I can see how they've seeded this throughout the season and how it all works and comes together. But it feels like the bonds between all of these people are more powerful than all of that. And it feels like even so, you know, I don't know if I believe the fight, but I love it.
I think ultimately that's what it is I don't really believe the fight, in part because they're all so quippy. Like, it's all so written.
Yeah, it is very written. Mm-hmm.
It's very written. It feels very theatrical to me,
yes,
too. I feel like I'm watching a scene that could easily be on stage.
Oh, it is. It's extremely theatrical. You're right. Mm-hmm.
I think we only... I was just about to say it feels like it could be on stage, and I think we only have a couple of camera angles.
Yeah.
We shoot it sort of like
a play,
a stage play or a sitcom.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It does have a very sitcom feel.
Okay. That helps me explain to myself some of the, I really enjoy this, but it doesn't fit in the show.
Right. Well, because it is. And Buffy has its sitcom moments. I mean, we definitely, like, you know, let me reference once again, Something Blue, right? But this is supposed to be a deep emotional moment that is played as sitcom. Right. And I think that's where we have that. This is the big emotional, you know, thing in the season. This is like the crux of everything that they've all been going through all season. And yet we do play it off primarily as a joke, you know.
I mean, at least in part because we have to quote Robert Gifford of the now defunct local theater troupe here in Seattle, Red Card Productions, the gratuitous use of special skills.
Yes.
Anthony Stewart Head playing drunk is masterful. And the way he sits down, not in the chair.
Falls off the chair onto the floor.
He doesn't.
Oh,
what I love is that he doesn't even, I don't think he even falls off the chair.
Entirely.
I think he very confidently sits down.
Where there is no chair.
Not in the chair. It's so good. And then the moment, I usually don't enjoy this kind of like the gay relationship as the joke, but when Willow says, you can't handle Tara being my girlfriend, and then Xander's going off on something and he goes, and Tara's your girlfriend? And then we reinforce it with Giles
saying,
from upstairs.
bloody hell.
Oh, bloody hell. I have feelings. I have feelings about the lesbian relationship being played for a joke, but it feels like theater. It feels like that kind of where we have to catch everyone up on what's going on so that they can come back together as a group of 4 in the next episode.
Yes.
But oh my word, that whole fight. And then of course, you mentioned it already, but Anya and Tara just being like, nope.
They just nope right out of it. Yeah, I know. I love that whole thing. It's so great. They just like, this has nothing to do with us, and they just go into the thing.
But it's just, it almost feels like that whole scene almost feels like this, gratuitous use of special skills kind of thing. It's like, we know these people can pull this off.
Right.
So let's write it this way, whether or not it necessarily fits with the tone.
Because it's so fun, right? It is so much fun. And I'm with you on the joke about the lesbian gay relationship, which again is part of this hurricane raindrop thing. Like in certain circumstances where everybody is surprised and this is new information coming out, you could definitely like pull that off a little bit. But because we so often play gay as the joke itself, it's bad, it's just bad. So I think I love the gratuitous use of special skills. I love that idea. I think that's wonderful. And it is so exactly expressive of what is both great and wrong with that whole scene, Well,
another thing that is so great and wrong about the whole scene is, of course, the fire starter here is Spike.
Yes.
And the whole thing feels very Spike. Like if Spike were to set a plan in motion, it would go pretty much like this.
Exactly.
I mean, Spike is the vampire who literally falls asleep outside and sets himself on fire. So I kind of love that this is like, that the weird tonal shift of this fight scene that I absolutely love it, but it feels like it has the Spike fingerprint on it.
Oh, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. Speaking of which, let me go ahead and explain Delight Armor a little bit. I used it early in the top in the summary of the episodes. That Spike should have died like 12 times by now, right? Buffy should have killed him 5 times in season 2 alone, And it's not plot armor. We often refer to this as plot armor, the thing that prevents a character from dying, right? It's like we can have a protagonist that's shot at by 15 guys with machine guns, and he takes nothing more than a flesh wound to the shoulder, So a protagonist has plot armor because we can't have the story without the protagonist. So no matter what kind of pickle they get in, they are going to survive. That's not what Spike has. Our story could go on without Spike, right? Spike has Delight Armor. He is just too much fun to kill. And it's a delight that comes into the audience, but the audience has absolutely no control over who lives and who dies. See above, Tara. But
why do you hurt me like that?
I know. I'm preparing myself because I know it's coming. It's about this time every time I watch through Buffy that I start to get really, really angry about that. But we'll deal with that at the end of season 6. But what Spike has is Delight Armor, which is when a character is so much fun to write that a writer cannot let them die. Like no matter what, a writer will do anything to see them through, right? And the more we love that kind of character, like the more value they have to the narrative when they're dead, right? If you as long as they're not a protagonist, if you kill a beloved character, that's a big moment. Every time a beloved character dies in any of the story gets a lot of attention, and done right, it can have real narrative power, So Delight Armor is about the relationship of the writer to the character, and Spike is just too much goddamn fun to write. They wrote him through season 2 and they got rid of him at the end of season 2, and then they couldn't go through all of season 3 without a hit, man. So we had to have Lover's Walk, right? right? Then we bring him back in season 4 and we de-chip him so that we have a reason not to kill him. Why? Because we love him, and also because identity stories, and having Spike with a chip in his head is just wonderful for a season about identity, right? I mean, and him trying to figure out, and the fact that he can, inflict violence upon demons, which puts him on the side of good only because he's so addicted to violence and he loves it. That's wonderful, and that's crunchy. But even when they do kill him at the end of season 7, the very last episode of season 7, when they're like, well, we don't have to write him anymore, so let's go ahead and kill him. And then they kill him. And then over on Angel, what do? They resurrect the motherfucker, because you cannot. A world without writing Spike is just not worth it. And they earn it. They do earn it, mostly over in Angel season 5. They do earn bringing him back. Mostly. And you know what? I don't blame him. Life is too short not to write Spike. That's just,
Well, yeah. Well, especially when, you have James Marsters as Spike, who just, I don't know how he does it, but he shines doing everything they give him to do.
Yeah.
And I love that in this, while he's like fully ensconced in his delight armor in these 2 episodes, we get some of that core Spike that I love so much. We get him fighting demons in slow motion with his coat all billowy. He gets to be like action vampire. But we also get little details like Spike loving his food, and the way he comes over to Giles is he just barges in and microwaves himself a blood bag, which, first of all, ew. Yeah. But I have to hand it to them. Like, that is such a great bit of business for Spike to be doing.
And Giles has had that blood bag in that refrigerator for months at this point.
That's human blood. You probably don't want to, well, whatever. Yeah. Who even knows? I
don't know. Is it like wine? It stays fresh in the bag. That's why I buy the box wine. It has that little bag.
Oh my God. Oh God, Lonnie. Now I'm picturing blood packaged like boxed wine. I'm picturing spigot. Spike with like a, oh God, with like a spigot that he can just, Anyway. But we get another little bit of, I call it core Spike. I don't know if it is, but it feels like core Spike to me. Spike with TV.
Yeah.
Spike and his relationship to TV and Spike as a television viewer. Now, of course, in this case, he's watching the security cameras with Adam.
Right.
But he's narrating like he's watching a show and he's enjoying it. Like he's smoking his cigarette and watching the TV screen. And I'm like, that's right. Spike has this thing about like being a viewer and I think that's
being a
part
perhaps
of his
watcher.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
There you go.
But he is so delightful. And then of course we get some like really dark shit with him too, where, Spike putting his cigarette out in Forrest's eye. Yeah. That's like intense.
Yeah.
Just in case I got too delighted and forgot that Spike was evil.
Right.
Like that's some
Yeah.
It's like that's quite a choice there.
That is.
It's quite a choice. But he really is just this great, I don't know, not a sponge, but he doesn't soak up anything. But you can throw Spike into a scene and it's instantly better. He just affects everything.
Yeah.
And becomes part of, I don't know. So what is he? He's like I don't know. I need a metaphor and I'm like grasping
He's
at
the
straws.
salt. He makes all the other flavors more intense. Like he comes in and he just makes everything better. And that's
he's Buffy MSG.
He's
what
Buffy
he is.
MSG. He absolutely is. And that's the thing. Like I get why he has delight armor, and I have no problem with it at all. I think that like a character this delightful to write does not come around all the time. It is a very, very particular like like mix of magic, especially being played also by James Marsters, which is a big part of Spike's Delight Armor, is that when you have an actor like that who can do these things, you know, when Spike was written in the beginning, he was definitely written in a very interesting way, but what James Marsters brought to it also allowed them to like make this. So this magical combination of elements of the writing and the acting, bringing this character to life. I would put Delight Armor all over. He will live forever. You can't have a world in which people are not allowed to write Spike. Like, you just can't have it. And now they're doing it in the comics, and I think it's wonderful. All right, so Noelle, this week, what are you wearing?
Okay, so Tara is wearing lipstick, which, I mean, Tara wears lipstick, but I love her looking a little bit more grown up and sophisticated as she's helping Willow with her course selections for the next year.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what they were going for, but I like it.
It's very
I really,
nice.
really like it. We can't not talk about Riley's clown pants.
Can we?
I mean,
can
maybe
we
we cannot talk about them.
Can we not?
I actually really like those pants, and I think he looks good in them.
I don't know. Like, my kid's dad used to wear stuff like that all the time. Like, he loved
Oh, God, of
those
course he
pants.
did.
Yes, exactly. Sweetest man in the world. But would wear stuff like that all the time. And, you know, it was cute. It was cute. But after a while, I was like, no.
You're like, we can't do this anymore. We can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love him being sort of insecure about it too.
Yeah.
That it's, again, identity,
Yes.
right? He's like, I probably would have attracted less attention in my military garb. He's feeling out of because there you go again with like the missed opportunity at the identity story. We kind of did it with Riley, but then we sort of pulled it back, and then we sort of did it again, and then we pulled it back, and I don't know. I maintain that it was like. I don't know who is in charge in the writer's room. Like, I really don't.
Yeah.
Because it feels very all over the place.
I think it was Whedon. I think Whedon dropped the ball on it. He was running the show. This season, he was running the show. So,
well, I love to blame Joss Whedon for really any problem that I might have.
I mean, regardless, like, he was the showrunner on the show during this season. So if he was just asleep at the wheel and didn't pay attention and let everybody just do whatever, and all these writers pull in these different directions, that could have been what happened. But that would still be his fault because it's negligence, I guess.
Narrative negligence. That's one citation from story expert Lonnie Diane
That
Rich.
is my official charge. We will have him tried in the storytelling judiciary, someday.
Oh God. But I mean, I don't know. Riley's clown pants. I'm kind of here for them.
Okay.
I sort of I like him looking ridiculous while he's feeling ridiculous.
Yes.
It works for me. And of course, the business with Giles's sweater we talked about already. That this is where he loses the sweater. And of course, it lands on Xander.
Oh yeah,
which is great.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a great that again is another one of those things that I'm like, this shouldn't delight me so much, but it really does.
Yes,
just the. Especially after Xander has talked about being the clothing delivery guy, and poor me. Like, can I get you some new fighting pants, Buffy? You need some new pants. Delightful. And I will, and hey, I'll take some fighting pants. I don't know how she does everything she does in those pleather pants.
I don't even know.
They're clearly made for ass kicking.
Right.
What else have I got for clothing? I mean, so Giles, of course, transitions from sweaters to the robe.
Yeah.
Because he's hungover Hugh Hefner Giles.
That's
what is happening? What is happening? I'm like, okay, all right. So we just need like a little bit of.
My headcanon is that robe was a gift from Olivia.
You know it was.
Olivia liked that robe.
You absolutely know it was.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this, like a crushed velvet? What is he wearing?
That's
it's
what
so
she
good.
wants to snuggle up on.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And in that same scene, Tara is wearing a top that I'm pretty sure we've seen on Willow.
Uh-huh.
So I think we're maybe at the, or maybe it's just a style that Willow would wear, but we may be at the clothing swap
stage
part of the relationship, which is great. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things about being in a femme for femme relationship. You get to double your wardrobe, assuming you're kind of similar sizes.
Right.
That's always fun. But and then Willow is wearing this baseball tee that has a big pink cat face on it. And this is me not making a lesbian joke.
Oh, this must be killing you.
I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it.
I was proud of you. I think that's really good, but we all know what it is, and I'll tell you, it was funny. All right, so girl power moment of the week. What do you got for girl power moment of the week?
Oh, not with a girl power bit.
I really, like I said, I really want to give it to Spike.
Yeah?
I really want to give it to Spike for siding with Yoko Ono, and I feel like that's kind of a little bit random, maybe. But I think my actual girl power moment of the week might be when Buffy says, "I'm the Slayer, you're playing on my turf."
Yeah.
And then, just to punctuate it, we cut away to Willow with this look on her face like, yeah, that's my best friend.
That's right. You kind of want to jump in over Buffy and being like, that's right, bitches. You know.
Right, yeah.
I love that. I think, honestly, for me, there was this one beautiful moment where Spike was activating Willow's insecurities, right? And Tara just very gently says, well, you need to talk to Buffy because I'm sure. And then Spike interrupts, right?
Yeah.
But I think I love that. I love Tara's quiet ability to be unaffected by the insanity around her all the time, that she can see clearly. You know, and Tara is actually, I think, a pretty good example of goodness seeing clearly, right? Because she was the one who was able to see that Buffy was not Faith, or that Faith was not Buffy, right? So our evil sees theory has some pushback in Tara. But I mean, I love her, you know, saying to Willow, Miss Kitty Fantastico can be ours if you want, you know, constantly checking for consent in every possible venue. I absolutely love that. So there's a whole bunch of Tara. I think that generally my girl power moment of the week is probably usually going to be Tara related if Tara is in the episode, because her strength is so wholly, despite her magical elements, it is so wholly human and so wholly good. You know?
Absolutely. And Tara doing exactly the kind of magic that she needs to do in the moment when the fight is going on and walking the hell away from an argument that is going to be upsetting.
And like, not judging it. In the bathroom, she's not like, I don't know why the hell these people have to fight, blah, blah, blah. I hate it when they fight. She's not complaining at all. She's just like, so how long do you think it's going to be? You know? God, I love her. She's so fantastic. Every time I watch through Buffy, I love Tara more. You know, like there's just more of her that shows up that is so wonderful. And I aspire someday to be as good a human as Tara. I will never reach it, but I do believe in highly aspirational goals. All right. So my moment of Riley for this week.
Lonnie's moment of Riley.
Right. This is the section where I have to pick out something that I like about Riley. Because I'm always complaining about Riley. Can it be when Angel says, "Don't push me, boy"?
No.
All right, fine. When he blows up Franken-Forrest with the flammable container that he just, I guess, shakes around enough so that all he has to do is hold it and then it explodes.
I'm sorry. I have to stop like right there. I have to stop right in the middle of the moment of Riley.
Yes.
Because that is a moment of Looney Tunes.
Right?
Like, what the hell was going on with the end of this episode? That we have Franken-Forrest literally looking up to realize he's holding the tube that says flammable, and then it's like the wide-eyed, oh shit, kaboom, Wile E. Coyote moment.
Right.
But
did it get hit by a stray spark? Was it just shaking it up that made it flammable? And also, here's the thing. Would it have exploded if he hadn't looked up and seen the word flammable? Because this is the whole Wile E. Coyote jumps off the side of the cliff, but he doesn't start falling until he looks down, right? I have no answers for you.
because it's, I don't know, I swear to God, backwards pants day in the
right.
writer's room. Because on the one hand, we have Buffy, combo Buffy, literally turning bullets into doves in this like beautiful, symbolic, magical gesture. And then we have this like Looney Tunes explosion with the flammable canister. And then we're in the X-Files because we've got a room of dudes in suits sitting around talking about government conspiracies.
Shady government nonsense. Yep.
What is this? What is this?
No,
and why do I love it so much?
You know what? Ain't nothing wrong with loving it. You can love whatever you want. So, I know my favorite Riley. Cowboy Riley.
Yes.
That's next week.
That's next week.
All right, fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Next week. That's next week.
Fine.
He got here early.
He did get here early.
You got here early, so your moment of Riley gets to be cowboy guy. That's what it is. Yeah.
All right, Noelle, what's your favorite part?
Okay, it's Riley full on black swanning it up, pulling the chip out of his glorious pectoral muscle. I mean, it's so good. It's so, but again, story value. This is story value, story catnip. Give me someone enduring excruciating pain and reaching into their own body to free themselves from whatever, and I'm yours. Like, I was just like, it's so bizarre, but so great. And I don't know. I have a body horror thing, and I like it.
No, I think that's great. I have the exact opposite of whatever. Like I hate that stuff more than anything. That is never, ever going to be my favorite part. But I'm glad it's yours. I think it's really interesting because I've never met anybody who like really loves that stuff so much. And it's so interesting to hear your perspectives on that, to kind of be able to see into a place I haven't been able to even look aside from like through my fingers up until now. So I think I love it when you talk about that stuff. I think it's so, so interesting. And the reasons why you love it are still obscure to me. Like I don't quite understand it, but I'm learning and it's so interesting. I absolutely love it.
Well, there's something very wrong with me.
That is not true. That is not true.
But also, it's a deep, like, it's always going to be deeply symbolic and meaningful when someone is interacting with their own body. And Riley's heart space as the location of his chip feels meaningful, even if it's in a last minute, mother kept her secrets well kind of way, which is really writer code for we decided this at the last minute.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it feels that way to me. I don't know.
God. Speaking of heart space, there's something I forgot to bring up, but which I was having thought. I just forgot to put it in the notes. But okay, so we have this super royal wee Buffy, right? We've got Willow's witchy, and we've got, Buffy's like physical power, and we've got Giles' knowledge. Why do we need Xander to be part of that? We give him the card that's for the heart, right? Yeah. Like, what part of this discussion were they like, well, we really need somebody with a sensitive heart connection in order to defeat Adam?
Because it feels a little bit unearned. But also right before that, when they have their reconciliation in the elevator shaft, which I love, he is, they love him. Like he's there because they love him.
Right, but he doesn't need to be. When they're making up the plan, and this is where, they're making up the plan, and Xander is like, oh, well, we just need Giles' Sumerian and Buffy's strength and Willow's witchy powers all in one. Right, he came up with the idea, but he doesn't need to actually, like, at no point are they like, yes, and Xander, we need your hair. I don't know. What is it about Xander that he needs to be part of the royal we? I mean, I think that he does, but they didn't give it a reason. And I wish that they had a reason why Xander needs to be the glue that holds all of them together. And if they were like, well, for this, and it's possible they could have had this and it got cut for time because that happens a lot, But like the reason why Xander needs to be there, the role that Xander plays within their group, You know, we need somebody to deliver the fighting pants. Like, you know, what is it?
Yeah.
What is it about what Xander does that is essential to this group? Because I think that that's the hardest argument to make, you know, but I think it would be one of the more interesting arguments to make that he, you know, that he is the heart, that he pulls them all together, that he keeps them emotionally anchored. And if they had just one moment of saying why Xander needs to be there, I think that would have been more effective for me because I really wanted to see that. I wanted to see that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and delivering fighting pants is a very nurturing
It's nurturing
thing
it's
to
support.
do. Like, we need somebody, like, we need people to deliver us fighting pants. We need people to, like, care about our, you know, our slaying
to take care.
Lower half
you need
comfort.
support people. Like, you need support people. And I think that
yeah. Well, and I think that that has been Xander's role for a while now. He's always game. Yeah. Like, whatever they're going to do, even as they're breaking back into the initiative and he's like, well, this is never going to work. You know?
Right.
He's like, we're all going to die.
Thing. Like, the core of the word courage is heart. You know, I mean, that's the Latin root of that is the word for heart. And I think that his heart, his you know, ability to see things through to the end, no matter what, like he is in the fight always, you know, I think that
because he loves them.
Because he loves them. Right.
He loves them.
So I wanted that to be needed. I wanted that to be part of the spell that they needed that they wouldn't have been able to do without him. And we don't really make that argument. But anyway, that's from that. I just forgot to put that note in earlier, and I wanted to bring it up.
They don't.
My favorite,
but also it is about the core. I mean, season 4 is about this core 4 and coming back together as a group of 4, and they have their, you know, 4-way reconciliation in the quad. It's like really not subtle, guys. But you know, it's funny that I'm usually the one to be like, why is Xander even here? But I didn't have that. I was like, well, yes, of course Xander is there.
Right. But they just didn't make a textual argument for it. And I kind of wish that they had. I kind of wish that they had given him a sense of his role being important because I think that it is, you know?
Yeah.
So I kind of wish that we'd had that. All right. So my favorite part, I think, is Don't Push Me, Boy.
Of course it is.
Although second choice is Giles drunkenly giggling during the fight. And wandering upstairs and trying to take off his sweater and not being able to. It's just freaking adorable, and I love it. All right, if you enjoyed this conversation, would like to join in, come find us on social media. I am at Lonnie Dine Rich on Twitter, and Noelle is at Noelle Aloud on Instagram, and the hashtag is Still Pretty.
This episode of Still Pretty was brought to you by the Chipperish Media producers who support us on Patreon at the power producer level. These people are the reason why Still Pretty is coming to you free and ad-free right now, so thank you to our February producers, Sarah, Shelley, Kristen, Alice, Noelle, Erica, Abigail, and Jonathan. And this week's special message for our power producers: you never train with me anymore. He's going to kick your ass.
To find out how you too can support Chipperish Media, visit patreon.com/Chipperish. Other ways to show your support: write a great review on Apple Podcasts, tell your friends about the show, or be all billowy coat king of pain.
We will be back next time with Restless, the 22nd episode of season 4. Until then, they look down on you.
They hate you.
But they don't look down on me.